Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, December the 9th. A lot to talk about this morning. First of all, I want to kind of take a look at the past, the beginning part of the month of December, and then look at the current weather situation. We have a very active frontal system that will slide to the east coast at midweek, cause a soaking rain event along the I-95 corridor region from late Tuesday night through much of the day on Wednesday. Then much colder air moves in Wednesday night and Thursday for the northeastern part of the nation. That active frontal system will certainly produce some interior snows as well in the usual places this winter season so far. Upstate Pennsylvania, New York, interior part of New England as well. Then at the end of the video discussion, I want to kind of throw out there a potential stratospheric warming event. It's some kind of a phenomenon that we monitor closely this time of the year. It can lead to cold air outbreaks into the middle latitudes, and indeed it looks like there is a stratospheric warming event that is going to get underway over the next week or two and really intensify as we get into the latter part of December. It could have big implications on the temperature pattern across the U.S., let's say from late December on through much of January. Well, here is a map of the temperature anomalies for that pretty much the first week of December. It actually goes through December 5th, and you can see well below normal temperatures across the eastern half of the nation. This turned out to be the coldest first week of December in much of the eastern states since 2002. So it's quite impressive cold to start off the month of December, at least through the eastern half of the nation, warmer than normal out across to the west. But for the nation as a whole, in this first week of December, it averaged a couple of degrees below normal. Now, in that same time period through the first week of December, here are the snow totals, and a couple things to point out. First of all, the big winners were those higher elevation locations of the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S., places extending all the way from high elevation regions of West Virginia, Western Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and of course this area here just downstream of the Great Lakes, in this particular case Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. Some tremendous snowfall totals with 71 right here shown on this particular map. Again, for the first week of December, that was all enhanced by lake effect snow, and in interior sections of New England and upstate Maine received some significant snowfall as well. That's above normal snowfall for all of these areas. But you go to the I-95 corridor region and hardly anything. D.C. down here, Philadelphia down here, New York City down in this area right here, and even Boston area, very little snow in this time period. It's just quite hard to get snow in that I-95 corridor region. And this midweek event, a similar pattern with upstate Pennsylvania, upstate New York, interior New England likely to get interior snows, but very little, if any, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and Boston. We'll have to watch. There's a chance for a changeover to snow shower activity later Wednesday night in some of the I-95 corridor region as a colder air mass pours into the region on the heels of frontal passage. Well, before we take a look at some of the forecast maps for this upcoming active frontal system during the midweek along the eastern seaboard, here is a forecast map from the Zero Z GFS. Total snowfall over the next 5 days. Again, the interior sections of the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast U.S. will receive some accumulating snows over the next few days, specifically in that period later Wednesday night into the overnight hours on Thursday in this portion of the country. But again, very little, if any, in the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philly to New York City to Boston. Out in the Midwest, certainly some decent snowfall out across the Great Lakes region. Some of it lake effect type snows, but also some synoptic scale type snows here across Iowa and Wisconsin. Again, this is over the next 5 days between this morning and Saturday morning. Then some decent snowfall across the Rocky Mountain states, and a real winner the Sierra Nevada mountains of eastern California, where some significant snow will pile on top of what they already have. And they've already received some significant snow out over those higher elevations in eastern California. Again, this for the next 5 days. Well, let's take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from the 0Z run of the GFS. You see what we call a positively tilted upper level trough as we begin the day here on Monday. What I mean by that is the upper level trough that extends from the upper level low itself, moves in a kind of a southwest fashion. That's what we call a positively tilted trough axis when it is positioned from the southwest to the northeast. Now, when it becomes a negatively tilted trough, that can lead to significant surface load development. We'll see what happens here over the next 48 hours. Look at this trough as it moves into the middle of the nation by tomorrow evening, and then finally into the eastern states by midday on Wednesday. This is quite a change with what we call a negatively tilted trough axis, and that again promotes a lot of upward motion in this portion of the upper level trough, and in fact that will lead to kind of a secondary storm to develop along this cold frontal system along the East Coast as we get into the midweek. Here we go by Wednesday evening, and certainly there can be some heavy rainfall. D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, anytime from late Tuesday night through much of the day on Wednesday, even some thunderstorms in the colder air, backside of the advancing surface cold front. There'll be accumulating snows upstate PA, upstate New York, interior New England. We get into the day on Thursday, and the cold air at this time then just floods the mid-Atlantic region of the northeast U.S. with well below normal temperatures expected mid-Atlantic northeast U.S. on Thursday and Friday. Another system barrels into the Pacific states, specifically California at this particular time, and that will contribute to some of those significant snowfalls over the Sierra Nevada by the upcoming weekend. Now, I mentioned another cold shot coming into the northeast U.S. It starts off today with milder weather conditions. We turn milder in the mid-Atlantic region, for example, on Sunday compared to Saturday and Friday. It stays relatively mild today and tomorrow, somewhat chilly, but milder than it was at the end of last week. But another cold shot is coming. Here we go into the morning on Tuesday, milder than normal across much of the eastern third of the nation. We can see colder than normal conditions and across the middle of the country, and well below normal over the south central part of Canada. Here we go now by midweek, and you can imagine a strong cold frontal system right in this area right now. This is when that upper level low starts to take on that negatively tilted trough axis, and a second storm system will form near the eastern seaboard. Here we go into the midnight hour on Wednesday night, going into Thursday. Cold air starts to pour into the mid-Atlantic region on the heels of that frontal passage, which should take place sometime Wednesday evening in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and then Thursday and Friday, well below normal temperatures in much of the northeastern states. This is the forecast map of 850 millibar temperature anomalies for Friday morning. Another system moving into California, and that will also have some colder than normal air associated with it. Well, let's look at the surface maps, and we have a kind of a welcome rain event today in the Mid-Atlantic region. Not a soaker by any means, but certainly beneficial rainfall beginning shortly in the D.C. area, probably by midday in Philly, New York City. An upper-level trough kind of sliding off to the north Andes will bring this rainfall right here by the midday across much of the Mid-Atlantic region. Way up in the northern part of New England, those higher elevations, it's cold enough for snow later this afternoon into the evening hours. This is a rather quick mover, will not produce a heck of a lot of snow, but indeed there can be some accumulations. Vermont, New Hampshire, interior Maine, for example. The rain ends for the most part by this evening across the I-95 corridor region in the Mid-Atlantic region. Then we get into the day on Tuesday, and here we go with that frontal system. You notice here right off the bat we have one low moving up to the north and east by late tomorrow night. Now, remember, we talked about that negatively tilted upper level trough. That will help to promote some vigorous upward motion over the mid-Atlantic region, and indeed a second storm system starts to form along that frontal system here by the east coast. This is the midday Wednesday forecast map. Intensifying low here, 996, can certainly produce some heavy rainfall. DC, Philadelphia, New York City, maybe some thunderstorm activity as well. Wednesday will be a mild day ahead of the front in the I-95 corridor region, with temperatures probably reaching 60 degrees in some of the big cities. Notice in the backside behind that front, cold enough for snow across West Virginia, western Pennsylvania, and certainly interior upstate New York can get some decent snowfall out of this on Wednesday night. Here we go. The low moving all the way up into New England by Wednesday evening, and then the cold air really starts to pour in. You can see that again, another tight isobar pattern here. We have a strong low pressure at this time over southeastern Canada, incoming strong Canadian high, and the difference in pressure between these two systems quite strong. These will be quite strong. Northwest winds, once again, probably gusting past 40 miles per hour or so later Wednesday evening into the overnight hours in the Mid-Atlantic region, and certainly into New England as well. We'll go out a little bit farther in time. And here we go, another strong storm sitting over southeastern Canada, another cold, windy day in the northeastern part of the nation on Thursday. Pretty quiet over the interior sections until you get all the way out to California. Talked about that next system moving in from the Pacific Ocean into California. That will result in some more accumulating snow in those higher elevation locations, for example, the Sierra Nevada. So a very active frontal system will develop along the eastern seaboard Tuesday night, Wednesday night time frame. It'll bring a soaking rainfall to the I-95 corridor region and some accumulating snows in the usual places so far this winter, interior higher elevation locations of the mid-Atlantic northeast U.S., all followed by windy, cold conditions for Thursday and Friday across the northeastern quadrant of the nation. That's it for now. Well, hold on here. I do have the stratospheric warming event I wanted to talk about. This is the current situation in the upper part of the atmosphere. What we're looking at here, the 10 millibar level. This is way up at the top of the atmosphere in the section we call the stratosphere. This time of the year, there's the usual kind of a polar vortex right here. And let's get oriented with this particular map. Right here is the North Pole. This little circle right here is the North Pole. The U.S., hard to see on this map, is down here, and the Siberian part of the pole over here in this section. So at this particular time, the current time here, this is as we begin the day here on Monday, you can see cold temperatures here, kind of the typical polar vortex seen right over the North Pole, over the polar region here. And watch what happens as we go out to 16 days from now. Quite a dramatic change from this currently to this in 16 days. This is around Christmas Day, December 25th. It's a long-range forecast, but many models are suggesting what we call a stratospheric warming event. These are very important to monitor this time of the year. When the stratosphere warms, it typically results in the troposphere below contracting or cooling down. In other words, it leads to the development of some cold air in the lower part of the atmosphere, first over the polar regions, and then they very likely move from the high latitudes to the middle latitudes. Doesn't guarantee it comes, for example, into the eastern U.S., but it certainly increases the chance that there will be cold air outbreaks when you have a in the middle latitudes, when you have a stratospheric warming event, as it looks like we will experience here later this month. Again, this particular forecast map is for right around Christmas Day. And notice that polar vortex kind of gets stretched out all the way into the Carolinas here on the south end. That's right in this area right here. That by itself can lead to some cold conditions during Christmas week in the eastern part of the U.S. But oftentimes the stratospheric warming event has kind of longer term implications. This could actually help to contribute to some cold air outbreaks all the way through the month of January. So something we will monitor over the next several days, and certainly we will revisit the stratosphere numerous times during this upcoming winter. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that there looks like there will be a stratospheric warming event that takes place later this month of December. Can make for some very interesting weather in the central and eastern U.S. late December and certainly during the month of January. That's it for now. For ArcFieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.